Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to welcome Waiheke Local Board Kath Handley, who is online.
Whawhai and Te Lawhalawa, Madam Chair. Kia ora koutou. Thank you. You've got our full feedback in your papers, so I'm only going to speak in depth on a small number of matters we've covered. But just to give some context, Waiheke has a network of about 150 kilometres of main, feeder and local roads with barely any provision of footpaths and cycleways. We've got about 1,500 people who commute from Waiheke to the mainland and back using non-subsidised, non-regulated commercial ferry services. We're a popular visitor destination with over 1 million off-island visitors each year, and that's excluding the international tourists, and more than 70% of those people, in fact, are probably significantly more now, are Auckland residents. So they're your residents. We note that every visitor that comes here relies on the transport infrastructure of the island. So whether that's by foot, taxi, tour van, cycle, bus or private vehicle. And that puts an incredible load on our infrastructure. So just looking at the first slide, underpinning our relationship with Auckland Transport, we have a very effective collaborative relationship which is now founded on an enduring memorandum of understanding. And I would like to, at this point, just acknowledge the AT board and its CEO and the leadership team for working with us as their resources permit, which is one of the issues here. That we have publicly we've worked with our people to build a fully consulted 10-year plan down to pretty well micro detail. There's nothing flash in that plan relative to anything. There are no bells and whistles. It's a plan to establish a safer, resilient, no-frills infrastructure. That will cost a great deal less than currently in terms of maintenance, and it will save lives. Our current infrastructure is in poor condition. It was developed in an ad hoc way, as you'll understand, over many decades, and it's not fit for purpose. It's certainly not fit for the 1 million visitors as transport users increased exponentially over prior decades, and substantial investment is now required. I just want to talk about one aspect of that plan. It's about future-proofing, but it's primarily about safety and it's about health. And I think there's a risk when we talk safety that we talk stats and numbers. And I know there have been previous speakers who've talked about people. And of course, it's only about people, safety is. And in terms of what this plan means to me, I can personalise it in 3 ways. So this is not, it's because we know the people and we live in a smaller community, but it's not that. It's also because we have a huge number of small unreported accidents. But just in the last months, my 15-year-old cycling neighbour was cycling down to the Matiatia ferry terminal, which she does every day, and was picked up by ambulance with concussion after being forced off the road. And one of my locals who lives 2 blocks away, who I know well, was hit from behind by a car just a few weeks ago, suffered a shocking head injury that virtually severed his ear. And a woman I know from our local residents association stepped out from what is a dangerous corner, got bowled over and suffered broken bones. And I can tell you that initiatives that are in our 10-year transport plan would have significantly mitigated the risk in every one of those cases. And that's because it's a very detailed plan. So the local board would like to acknowledge there is an allocation of 10 million in the draft RLTP to start to support the delivery of that plan. However, and Auckland Transport are very supportive of this, they costed the 10-year transport plan at $85 million. So it's going to take a great deal more to deliver a very basic infrastructure. So what we would like is that there is support for the 10 million that's in there, but also for you to actively support further funding to enable us to deliver on that plan. Just going to the next point, we do live here. It's an island. It's also a destination. One of the big issues for us is our exclusion from PTOM, from integrated ticketing, from a number of initiatives that you've taken with Auckland Transport and with government. So we'd like to see Auckland Council with Auckland Transport advocating alongside us and having public transport ferry services to and from Waiheke included in the regional transport network and within the public transport operating model. And incidentally, we don't have any free park and ride either. We've been paying for years, and that goes into the general fund. So it's seriously not equitable, is it, for our ratepayers to be paying for everybody else in the region other than... Sorry, could you say that again? I'm not reading something.
Oh, sorry, you're just on 5 minutes, but just finish your last point, please. Thanks, Kath.
Okay, thank you. I do want to just make a point with respect to downtown and the waterfront. It is that we have advocated for mobility access, and we would like to see both the Waitemata Local Board, Council and Auckland Transport do that as well. With respect to the downtown car park, your next item, that is our garage. Many of our residents keep their car in that downtown ferry terminal, so we would request that you take accountability of that when you consider the next item. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There being no questions, I would like to thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. I'd like to welcome Izzy Fordham from the Aotea Great Barrier Local Board, who is also online.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee, and thank you for the opportunity. I won't be doing the visual, if that's all right with you, Madam Chair. The reception from where I am isn't that great, so I'm afraid we're just going to do the audio thing. So as I say, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk with you guys this afternoon. So firstly, in keeping with our local board plan, climate change is a big one for us, and you would have all seen our remits that we sent through to you. So I'm just going to talk very briefly to a few of those. So the climate change, as I say, is really important. That incorporates the sea level rise, which will and is starting to have impact on some of our coastal roads with coastal erosion. We'd also like to ask that when contracts are let through Auckland Transport, that the coastal erosion and climate change lens are also included in the air. Public transport, well, we don't really have a system over here, but I'm very, very happy to say that AET are working with us for a bespoke system. We're finding ourselves now having more and more demand for some sort of regular system throughout the island. We'd also like to offer our support to the Unsealed Road Improvement Framework and hope that this can continue. We're lucky enough to have one of our roads being done with this, and it will be the environmental sealing that will be used. So we're very supportive of that framework for ourselves and for other rural boards. I'd also just like to put another plug in, if possible, please, through this process for an on-island contract manager to actively monitor and assess our road conditions, evaluate contractor delivery and performance, and to lead local social management and foster working relationships as well. We'd also like to request for your consideration a discrete fund to deliver environmental solutions in the road corridor independently of other transport-focused projects. With this, we're referring to modification of road culverts to enable fish migration. That is something that's actually quite important to our area. Something else we'd like to draw your attention to and just ask that please be mindful as we move forward. The importance of travel to the island by either plane or ferry. And we're asking for security and accessibility of the Mangere Airport. That's the housing for our 2 airlines to and from the island and for freight and passengers, and also to the Wynyard Quarter Terminal, as these are essential to the functioning of our community. Down there, that's our only ferry, freight and vehicle depot. I'd also like to say a big thank you as well to Auckland Transport and yourselves, and we support the Wakakatahi Te Ara Hapapa program. We have been fortunate to be recipients of this, and it has just made so much difference to our community, and I know other communities throughout New Zealand are also benefiting, so I ask for continued support on that. The Capital Transport Fund and also the Community Safety Fund, we're delighted, and we were one of those boards that did support the 5%, to see that this Capital Transport Fund may well be reintroduced. We're really looking forward to that, as it enables communities to bring forward little projects that wouldn't normally get done. And if there is a possibility, the reinstatement of the Community Safety Fund. So I think in closing, Madam Chair, you can see everything else in front of you, and I have every confidence that yourself and your committee members have read through those. I would like to thank Auckland Transport for all their hard mahi they do for our island, and especially to our Auckland Transport liaison person, Ben Halliwell, and also to Richard Laville, who always seem to go over and above the call of duty. So with that, Madam Chair, I am happy to take questions.
Thank you, Izzy. That's really cool how you acknowledge the AT staff. Councillor Coombe has a question for you.
Thank you. Kia ora, Izzy. Good to hear from you. And just to add, that is nice to see you recognising Ben and Richard. And I know Richard's doing a great job on Waiheke as well, and it's made a huge difference having a go-to person for the island. I just wanted, in terms of the fact that the ferry is now no longer servicing Fitzroy, was that something you'd like to bring to our attention, or is that part of the concerns on the island that we need to find a solution for?
Thank you for that, Councillor Combe. Yes, and I am well aware, as my board, that it is a commercial decision on behalf of Sealing. But yes, it is quite true. For nearly a year now, they have stopped servicing the northern end of the island. This proves incredibly expensive for the businesses up there to try and get their freight brought up all the way from Trifina to the northern end, and the same for people leaving the north, having to come to Auckland with their vehicles or even on the ferry. I don't know what the answer is. Sealink say it's not viable, it's too costly. We've considered and tried, as you know, to gain some sort of subsidies, even if it is for freight. Freight is a killer for this island, it really is. It adds another third to the cost almost of building over here, as well as food stuff. So it is an issue that is of great concern to us.
Thank you. And we have a question from Councillor Casey.
Hi, Izzy.
Hey, Kathy.
I'm interested in your international dark sky status and the no-brainer that says that Auckland Transport should be using lighting design that meets international standards. Could you just talk a wee bit more about that?
Yes, certainly, and this is something that we're inclined to bring up with any opportunity we possibly can. And this is more of a reminder, please, to development on the mainland, and especially around the sort of Rodney, Hibiscus Bays area, and even Waiheke, that thought is given when you're putting in street lights or your exterior lighting that light spill goes down more rather than up and out. As you know, we're very, very proud of the international status that we have, and as is the Auckland Council, I'm sure. But that's what we look towards, is that I'm aware that the Harbour Bridge has turned their lights down, and that there is a lot of work going on in AT to minimise light spill as well. So I think we're on the right path, but we just always need to keep chipping away at that so it doesn't get forgotten. I'm actually looking forward to some time, Councillor Casey, when you may come over and try some astrophotography.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thanks, Izzy.
Thank you, Izzy. I'd like to now welcome Brent Catchwell.
No worries.
Thank you. From our Papakura Local Board.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity, councillors, for being able to present the local board's views on the RLTP. We believe in Papakura that the Papakura station should be developed to be a main southern edge Auckland transport hub, not only through the upgrade of the park and ride facilities, but also through the creation of a bus metro station to be included in that whole piece of area there. The board would like to see a holistic approach to the transport hub, including the Tihuia train and the electrification of the Pukekohe train as part of that whole outlook there. The board would like there to be connecting services such as the ride share and on-demand services, which is being trialled in Takanini. We'd like to see that expanded out to more areas around the Papakura local board area. We need to prioritise funding to support joint board and co-funding arrangements, and we have arrangements with Manurewa and Franklin, where we're working on projects like the Hunua Trail and the Waiata Shores project. The Waiata Shores one, we have Fletcher's and Manurewa, Fletcher Developments. That Fletcher's will only be there for a fairly short period of time from now, and if we don't get the complementary funding, we will miss out on a golden opportunity to link those between Manurewa and Papakura. The link between the new southern path through to from Pascara Point to Papakura Town Centre and on through to the other ones I was talking about, the Hunua Trail and the Waiata Shores, is a must and is lacking funding simply because we lost all of the funding during the emergency budget. The board is aware of discussions about the opportunities for a high-rise development above the Papakura station and is keen to be involved in that discussion. However, yesterday we learnt that the intention is to sell off that piece of land, which is 40% of our park and ride. Not only was it the airspace above, but the whole land is now destined to be sold off. And that came from the CEO of Panuku yesterday. With the residential growth, intensification is bringing with it safety issues that the board needs to have addressed, and the vulnerability of road users such as the children and mobility scooter users and cyclists. Rural roads, the changing to urban, and without so many of the rural roads are changing and becoming urban, but without the upgrade and the necessary quality of roads to actually cater for that. And it's not just in Papakura, but our neighbouring boards as well are suffering the same outlook. Roads on the urban fringe need additional measures to manage speed in terms of safety for pedestrians, cyclists and motorists. And one particular area that's concern to us is the Hingaya Road, Auckland Road intersection, which is a main access to a local school. The housing and density and traffic volumes increasing increasingly make it difficult for traffic to merge in this area, and therefore it makes it difficult for parents to get their children to school. It is important that rural roads have upgrades to provide the footpaths and pathways that connect between the existing roads and the rural section. And if we don't get those measures, it's unrealistic to expect a modal shift from the motor vehicle to alternative forms of transport, particularly for children getting to and from their schools. Safety, keeping pace with the development, areas are experiencing growth that require safety measures such as the completing and widening of the Hingaya Road from, oops, I've lost a page here. Anyway, we'll carry on, from the motorway to Hingaya Bridge. And moving on to the grade separation, the Papakura is faced with 4 roads that cross the rail line. Two of those are destined to be closed, and 2 are destined to be grade separation. It needs to happen earlier because when the CRL comes online, it is going to exacerbate the congestion that is there now, because when we get more frequency of rail, that will bring that whole area to a gridlock. One of the areas that we are seriously concerned, and we had a deputation from a local school last month, with the stormwater drains, open stormwater drains along urban roads that are not fit for purpose. We had a child fall into one of those drains. His friend tried to get him out, and the 2 of them got into difficulty. Fortunately, a motorist was stopped in the middle of the road and assisted. And the school is very concerned about that. We've talked to Healthy Waters and Auckland Transport about it. Healthy Waters has got the funding and willing to start that work now, but Auckland Transport doesn't have the availability of the funding and it in their work program to finish that piece of road.
Thank you.
And finally, Mill Road. I must mention Mill Road because it is a key link, and it's going to subdivide or cut off communities when it passes through them. There must be access across the Mill Road to link in with crosstown traffic and walking ways across to the town centre and also to the motorway.
Thank you very much for your presentation. There being no questions, I'd like to thank you and
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, councillors, for turning up to listen to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to welcome Lisa White from the Upper Harbour Local Board. Chair Lisa White.
Thank you, and thank you for staying. You must be starving. I was tempted to mix it up a bit. I've just been finishing an assignment that's due today on contemporary international conflict. I thought maybe I could mix it up and talk about that instead. But seriously, no, I'll do our presentation. So I'm going to keep it quick because I understand, and I thank you for the recommended variation, which includes a piece of the Albany Transport Network improvements. That was a recommendation from your workshop, which we as a board are really grateful for. So that's the one that picks up the safety issues at the Avenue Dairy Flat intersection. This will go some way to appeasing a community who's been let down on multiple occasions around the timing of this project. Literally, we've been out doing the engagement, the diggers are coming, and it's stopped. So this is really good news. I've been in local government for 17 years. It's been going on that long. So 2 weeks ago, there was actually a school bus crash at this intersection, and the Rodney Local Board member, Louise Johnson's daughter, was on that bus. Luckily, no injuries. But there's also a regular presence of broken glass, which represents multiple unreported minor accidents. So this is definitely a good investment. The level of submission was exceptional. This issue's a hot button item for residents and local board members alike, given its long history and significant sunk costs expended to date. And I'll just leave this picture with you because our local board are not a board of protesters, and we had 4 of our 6 local board members on the street with signs about this issue trying to promote submission from residents. So I wasn't one of them. I'm a real rule follower. But anyway, we did get an exceptional level of response, and we're proud of our community for stepping up and having their say on that. So this decision will also take advantage of the significant legacy contribution from Waiheke, and this component of the project actually has a BCR of 6.7, so it's a worthy project in its own right, and NZTA will fund 75% of this component. So skipping further ahead as well, we also welcome the Local Board Transport Capital Fund reinstatement going forward. I, like everybody else, would love to see some of the old money that we lost in the emergency budget, but we're realistic. This, for us, will allow the shared paths and the Scott Point Sustainable Sports Park to be constructed in stage 1, and that will greatly benefit that Scott Point community, which is like Hobsonville Point without the master planning. And currently, there's no connectivity within the community because the park sits in the middle and the roads haven't been constructed. So our shared paths will actually open up connections within that community that currently create a several kilometre detour, and there's not footpaths all the way. So the local school community is also going to be well served by that. So at a principled level, we support more investment in footpaths and cycleways from both a mode shift and for safety reasons. In growth areas and the rural fringe, I support what the Franklin and Papakura boards have said about rural roads becoming urbanised without the upgrade. That's definitely the case around the edge of Upper Harbour. Also, to pick up on a point that Victoria raised for the Hibiscus and Bays, we support the Glenvar Road project, which is on our shared boundary with them. So I've tried to be as quick as I can because I'm conscious that I'm last. I also have to get back to Albany to take over chairing our workshop, which is still going on. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, thank you for allowing the first part of the avenue to be in the plan.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is your board advocating for the full diamond at Squadron Drive?
We hadn't specifically, but yes, we would. It's been on our for a long time. That road, that intersection is probably the most dangerous one in our local board area, actually.
Thank you.
It wasn't in our when we presented to the Auckland Transport Board. It wasn't one of the things that we mentioned, but it has been in the wider material that we have in the past. But yeah, in hindsight, given the number of accidents in recent weeks, we probably should have. It's a nightmare, that one. Don't turn right coming out of that road.
Thank you. And we've got a question from Councillor Sayers.
Yeah. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Thank you. Just a clarification question really around the advocacy for the Avenues project there. Are you advocating for that kind of first stage, what's in the RLTP, or the wider project?
We were advocating for the whole thing, but we're nothing if not pragmatic. And it was in the RLTP last time, funded in the first 3 years for the whole thing. I mean, down to the Our Auckland articles, we're ready to go for these 2 connections, blah, blah. But something is better than nothing, and certainly the Auckland Transport staff that have worked with us are really keen to see something done, because it's a pinch point that affects all of the growth areas that are north of Upper Harbour, so the Milldale, the Dairy Flat, the Coatesville, Riverhead people, they all funnel down to that same pinch point. So the pinch point will remain without the full project, but the safety issues are mainly, or the safety issues will be helped by starting with this piece.
And Lisa, is that first bit for lights or roundabout? Do you know what the solution is?
At the moment, I think that we've come back to lights. It was a roundabout, but the project has been designed and redesigned on more than one occasion, and I'm not actually sure what the latest version is, and they wouldn't tell us how much the sunk costs were, just that they were significant. So it has been looked at many times. There's a land issue, and that the liquor store that's there is partly on road reserve. So I think lights, if it's a stage project, it'll be lights. If there was a full redesign of the bridge, it possibly would be a roundabout. But it certainly wouldn't be a big one like it is at the Coatesville Riverhead Highway.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
Councillor Hills has a question.
Just want to say quickly that thank you for ending in such a positive, constructive way, but also always being so positive and constructive when the tough road you've had to ride personally the last year or so. But I think you've really kicked ass as a woman in leadership, but also just a local government hero.
Thank you. It's nice not to be bald at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Gives you
Chair
much more
White.
confidence.
Thank you very much, Chair White. Members, we just have closing comments from MSB member Ngamane.
Kia ora, I'm not sure I'd call them closing comments, but I feel like a bit of an attach on to what has been really listening to local board feedback, and it has been, good to hear the different contexts. But I just, across the local board input, particularly for the IMSB, we are specifically interested in the equity and accessibility issues facing Māori across the local board areas. And we also just note that particularly the local boards in the West and South have raised issues of interest for Māori, noting they weren't included in the Māori impact statement in that respect. And I just want to highlight what they were: embedding te reo in the transport system, 6% social procurement target, AT to have projects that would increase the uptake of hop cards and the use of public transport, and working with iwi partners in this space. I'm not aware of what the issues were that were raised by Māori in the wider consultation round, but I just wanted to highlight that because I guess as you move toward approval, don't forget those issues. They cross-cut through. And in future, it would actually be quite nice if accessibility and equity issues facing Māori are highlighted in the report so that we have a better sense of that context. So that's really the only comment.
Thank you very much. Okay, and this will all go to when we do endorse the RLTP on the 24th of June. So we should pick that up then. Councillor Coombe.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to move or second this, but I just wanted to clarify. I mean, we have heard an incredible alignment of local board feedback, and they're really on the ground listening to their communities. And I just feel like there were those common themes. There was just absolutely no agreement. They were complementary, and I just feel like, I would like to reassurance that this is going to be very strong feedback that actually influences the final RLTP, because if, AT left halfway through those presentations, and I'm just not feeling the confidence that this is actually being taken on board for the final plan. And if we're not listening to our local boards who hear if they're from their communities directly, then it does make me really wonder about this whole process. And I did just have to make, I guess I'm talking to this, but just, to hear Auckland Transport talk about local boards as stakeholders when we're in the 11th year of this governance model is just so disappointing. I mean, like after the CCO review, that should just not be happening. I mean, we were raising that back in the first term when they were calling us stakeholders and asking us to submit as members of the public. So I just feel we have some real governance issues here. We have some real developing this plan issues, and we've just got to ensure that, we're saying we're going to consider this feedback, how we consider it and how we influence the plan. I would like some reassurance that we're actually going to make a difference to this process, because at the moment I feel like the horse is bolted. But thank you.
Okay, cool bananas. Chief of Strategy has something to respond.
Just through the chair, look, I just want to, reassure you that AT, I know that Hamish was here, but there are either people online or they will be reviewing the live stream if they weren't here. They understand, they're listening, and they will respond both to local boards but also to you later in June as they come back to you for an endorsement.
Okay, and then it also comes down to us to put it in action, what we've heard today. Okay, so thank you for offering to move, Councillor Coombe, but I'm going to move and Councillor Simpson's going to second. Thank you very much, everybody, for your forbearance, if that's the right word. to go straight through it rather than take a break. I just thought it would be better if we just go right through it all. So thank you very much, everybody. I move that the Planning Committee consider the feedback from the local boards. Thank you to our local boards. Thank you to our staff as well, as shown in attachment A of the agenda report when making recommendations on the RLTP. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Aye. Abstentions? I declare that carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Now it's lunchtime and we have to come back at 2:30? 2:15? Oh, no. 2:20? 2:30. You want to go till 2:30? Okay. I had it down for 1:40 that we were going to finish that session. 2:20. 2:10. Yeah, 2:10. So what time to come back? 2:30 then. You get 35 minutes.